Two things. One, Anthony, when you asked a question previously about the EU providing support for small businesses that were struggling with their financial status and so on,
Yes.
I think the irony, of course, is that the EU's response is, of course, the complete opposite at the moment. That even when you are submitting an application for any sort of grant from the European Union, the demands placed by the European Union on small and middle-sized cultural organisations to demonstrate their financial viability are as onerous as they are placed on any other organisation for any other funding programme. And I think we have a real stumbling block in terms of an attitudinal shift that's necessary in order to sort of provide that support. You'd have to swing the pendulum a complete arc to get to that point. Incredibly worthy goal, and I think it should be added in. But let's just face the reality.
No, absolutely.
What I was actually going to say, though, that was just a simple response, I'm sorry about that, was I think that there are examples of good practice. And I think one of the things that should come out of the communication is a commitment to further documentation of those examples of good practice. The DG EAC, which is setting this up, it's a fantastically worthwhile exercise, but one of the problems is that there's been a failure within any part of the European Commission to effectively document the way in which the cultural sector is being supported by all the various programs that they recommend. There are not the examples of good practice. Okay. So and I'll give one example which I think is really quite interesting. In one of the regions of the United Kingdom, people woke up to the fact that applying for the structural funds is incredibly difficult. It's really challenging. If anything is going to turn people away from the European funding, it's the sight of a structural funds application form and the glossary of outcomes and outputs and indicators and so on. And the only way that they decided in one region that they would get the money to the cultural sector was for the cultural body to become an intermediary. So the Arts Council England, in the northeast of England, applied to the structural funds for the money, which they then disseminated to the cultural sector in a way which made it much easier for the cultural sector to access. Now, that is an example of good practice, and there are many, many others, I'm sure, that I think the communication should lead to documentation and dissemination in that way.
That's really strong. Thank you.